This is Jensaki, the White House press secretary. On April 1st, 2022, the news outlet Axios reported that Psaki was leaving the Biden administration sometime in May, and members of the press corps asked her if she would confirm the report.
I have nothing to confirm about my length of public service or planned service or anything about consideration about next plans. And my focus every day continues to be speaking on behalf of the president, answering your questions, as tough as they may be at many times, as difficult as they may be to answer at many times. And
Okay, first of all, Jensaki routinely doesn't answer questions. For example, remember this infamous New York Post story about emails found on Hunter Biden's laptop and how Joe Biden called the report garbage? Well, a year and a half later, the press had finally come around and verified that the laptop and the emails within weren't garbage and, in fact, 100% real. So Philip Wegman from Real Clear Politics asked Jensaki the following question.
The New York Times has authenticated emails that appear to have come from a laptop abandoned by Hunter Biden in Delaware. The president previously said that the New York Post story about this was a bunch of garbage and that it was a Russian plant. Does he stand by that assessment?
I've pointed the Department of Justice and also to Hunter Biden's representatives. He doesn't work in the government.
So the question was, what does Joe Biden think of the whole Hunter Biden situation now that the emails have been authenticated? And Jensaki's answer was, Hunter doesn't work here. Ask his representatives about it. So much for answering the difficult questions, huh, Red? Anyway, Axios had also reported that Jensaki was now in exclusive talks with MSNBC to be a commentator and host her own show on Peacock, NBC Universal's streaming platform.
You know she's going to MSDNC, you know that, right? Right? They need a redhead. They don't have a redhead over there, so they need a redhead.
Now, media networks recruiting former White House employees to be commentators or contributors is nothing new. But this time is different because Jensaki is not a former employee.
Is it ethical for you to continue conducting this job while negotiating with the media?
Well, I have always gone over and above the stringent ethical and legal requirements of the Biden administration, and I take that very seriously.
Says the woman who violated the ethics law known as the Hatch Act. Here's a clip.
Look, I think the president, of course, wants former Governor McAuliffe to be the future governor of Virginia. Again, we're going to do everything we can to help former Governor McAuliffe, and we believe in the agenda he's representing.
Now, when she said, we're going to do everything we can to help someone win an election, Psaki engaged in political activity while speaking in her official capacity. And the Office of Special Counsel found that Psaki did in fact violate the Hatch Act's prohibition against using her official authority or influence to affect an election. I don't care how stupid you think the Hatch Act is when it comes to senior White House officials. It's still a law, and she still violated it. But if you want to talk about real ethics issues, you might remember my video on the TJ Ducklo incident. Ducklo was the deputy press secretary who was in a serious relationship with Axios political reporter Alexi McHammond, and a White House official who worked in the press office, dating a member of the press, presented ethics concerns. And so, Tara Palmieri, a reporter at Politico, contacted McHammond about her relationship with Ducklo. And according to reporting by Caleb E. Karma for Vanity Fair, Ducklo called Palmieri on the phone in an effort to kill the story. He told her, "I will destroy you," said that he would ruin her reputation if she published it, and then made derogatory and misogynistic comments towards Palmieri. Soon after, the White House Communications Office was made aware of the incident by Politico, but instead of Ducklo being fired on the spot, White House Communications Director Kate Bedingfield, Senior Advisor Anita Dunn, and the ever-so-ethical Jensaki all decided that it was no big deal and kept it quiet for 23 days.
There were conversations that occurred with the reporter as well as editors at Politico immediately after the conversation occurred. That was how we engaged in a private manner, and that was what we felt was appropriate at the time.
So not only did Jensaki think that it was ethical for a deputy press secretary to be in a relationship with a journalist, but when that person sexually harassed a reporter and threatened her career, Saki decided that it would just be best to cover it up. So you'll have to forgive me if I'm skeptical about her so-called high ethical standards.
And as a standard for every employee of the White House, I have received rigorous ethics counseling, including as it relates to any future employment. I've complied with all ethics requirements and gone beyond.
I mean, sure, she violated the Hatch Act, but she's gone beyond, guys.
Jen, given the reports, which have now been confirmed by multiple media outlets, how can you continue to be an effective briefer if you do in fact have plans to join a media outlet?
Well, I have nothing, again, to announce about any conversations or any future plans. But I would say, Kristen, that, again, I have taken the ethics, legal requirements to the highest, very seriously in any discussions and any considerations about any future employment, just as any White House official would. And I have taken steps beyond that to ensure there's no conflict.
No conflicts? Really? Well, that's bullshit. Let's take a look at the law. Title 5, Chapter 16, Subchapter B, Part 2635. Employees shall act impartially and not give preferential treatment to any private organization or individual. And Walter Schaub, the former director of the U.S. Office of Government Ethics during the Obama administration, points out 6 days before news leaked that Jensaki had landed a job with MSNBC, less than a month before, she did a one-on-one with MSNBC. I'm not accusing her of anything, but the White House owes an explanation. Schaub later added, doing a one-on-one with your negotiation partner raises more questions than answers. And so, if she's gonna be press secretary for the next month or so, every time she's in the briefing room and she takes a question from NBC News and doesn't call on a rival outlet, that could be perceived as giving her future employer preferential treatment, whether it's true or not. And CNN reported that NBC News journalists were not happy with the decision and worry that the tentative hiring tarnishes the NBC News brand, as if MSNBC wasn't doing that already. And based off her questioning, it would appear that Chief White House correspondent for NBC News, Kristen Welker, isn't happy about it either.
I guess the question is, how is it ethical to have these conversations with media outlets while you continue to have a job standing behind that podium?
Well, there are a range of stringent ethical and legal requirements that are imposed on everybody in this administration and many administrations past about any conversations you're having with future employers.
So what exactly are these stringent ethical and legal requirements that she keeps alluding to? Well, she hasn't bothered to tell us. However, we can see what the law has to say about it. Subpart A of Federal Code 2635.101, Basic Obligation of Public Service, employees shall not engage in outside employment or activities, including seeking or negotiating for employment that conflict with official government duties and responsibilities. And yet, Jensaki is negotiating for employment. On February 23rd, Dylan Byers wrote a piece for the news site Puck and reported the following. CNN interim co-president Amy Antelis and CNN Plus programming lead Rebecca Cutler were in Washington for a top secret and mission critical recruitment assignment to court a new potential on-air talent who, in their eyes, had the potential to become a marquee star both within the CNN lineup and its nascent streaming service. Less than 1 week later, NBC News chairman Cesar Conde and MSNBC president Rashida Jones made a similar pilgrimage to Washington to meet with the very same talent. The potential talent, of course, was Jensaki, the White House press secretary. Her lunch meetings with the CNN and MSNBC executives also included her agent, Jay Schurz. So the press secretary having lunch with executives from news networks would be troubling on its own. But on top of that, she's clearly negotiating with them because her agent was in attendance. And that brings us back to the law, which states that employees shall endeavor to avoid any actions creating the appearance that they are violating the law or the ethical standards set forth within this part. Whether particular circumstances create an appearance that the law or these standards have been violated shall be determined from the perspective of a reasonable person with knowledge of the relevant facts. In other words, Saki is, at the bare minimum, creating the appearance that during those lunches with network executives that she was negotiating for employment. And that appearance alone would suggest that she's breaking the law. Because CNN reported that a White House official previously told CNN that Saki had recused herself from interviews on NBC News and MSNBC. Oh wow, she's not gonna do interviews with NBC News or MSNBC anymore? Big deal, because she still runs the White House Daily Briefing and takes questions from reporters who work for NBC News, CNBC, MSNBC, and Telemundo, who are all owned and operated by her future employer, NBC Universal.
Broadly speaking, is it the policy of this White House to allow staffers to have discussions, even if indirectly, with institutions that impact and affect their jobs and your job here?
Well, it is the policy of this White House to ensure that anyone who is having conversations about future employment does so through consultation with the White House counsel's office and ensuring they abide by any ethics and legal requirements.
So she's had consultation with White House lawyers who, instead of advising her not to seek employment while she's employed at the White House, are possibly helping her break the law. Your tax dollars at work, America. Look, Jensaki can work anywhere she wants. Who cares? But at this point, it's pretty clear that she's a walking, talking conflict of interest and needs to immediately resign from her post. But not that she will. The Biden administration could care less about ethics, so just leave whenever you want, Red. And on that note, that's it for now. Be sure to like and subscribe, and hope to see you next time. If there is next time.